A very good morning everyone. Today we'll be studying the second unit of our course AGCON 201. This is classification of agricultural credit. It simply means the different types of loans that are available to the farming community of the country. What are those different types and how can we classify them? I am Dr. Sanjay, working as assistant professor in the Department of Agricultural Economics and your course instructor, and this is my email ID. And if you have any kind of queries about the previous lectures as well as the upcoming or this lecture, you can always contact me on WhatsApp during the class hours. Okay, thank you very much. So let's begin. These are the contents of our PowerPoint presentation. What do we mean by agricultural credit? How do we define? There are some standard definitions, but we will be referring only one. Why do we need this thing called credit, and how do we classify this thing? And at the end, some suggested reading, so that you can further enhance your understanding, but we'll try to leave no room for can say doubts. Okay, so let's see, what do we mean by agricultural credit? Meaning, the word credit came from Latin word credo, which means I believe. When a person A lends money to a person B, this is called as a loan because he is lending the money. A is called as lender and B is called as borrower. When a person lends money, when this person is going to give money to this person, it is based upon belief, confidence, trust and faith. All these are, can say, basis of giving loan to somebody, that they believe, they have confidence in the other person, they trust the other person, they have faith in the other person. You can say it in either way, not all the ways, either way, any one of the ways, that A has belief over the person B, that he will return my money after some time with some interest if he is trying to charge any. Also, the money can be called as loan. That means credit and loan are two synonyms. Okay, how do we define credit? Credit or loan is a certain amount of money that is provided for a certain purpose, okay, on certain conditions. Those conditions are, or can be, that there is some interest to be paid by the borrower to the lender, and that money is supposed to be repaid sooner or later. Sooner or later means it depends on the understanding between the person A and B. If A says that he wants 10%, 20% or even 30% interest for his money, this is, I am talking annual, okay, but the arrangements are different. It can be monthly also, it can be that high. Okay, A says give me this much of 10% rate of interest for my money and give it back to me after 2 years or within 2 years with the interest. That's all. Okay, this is how you can define define credit. Certain amount of money for a certain purpose on certain conditions. What are they? Interest and repayment. Alright, and it is to be repaid sooner or later. That is again repayment. However, Professor Galbraith, see, the benefit of memorizing the definitions is once you understand, then the benefit of memorizing these definitions is you can very precisely define what is the thing. Okay, credit, let's say he simply defines credit is transfer of an asset from one who has to the other who has not. That's all. Let's say credit is transfer of asset. We mean something you have in your pocket that you can go and sell it into the market and you will get some money. It has some value. Okay, or directly we can call as money is also an asset. Okay, and if you have a mobile, you can go and sell it into the market, it is also an asset. So credit is necessarily, we are talking about money, but it is anything that one can transfer to the other and that has a value. Alright, temporary transfer of an asset from one who has to the other who does not have it. Okay, now coming to what used to be the sources and what are the sources of credit. Earlier, by earlier I mean, let's say 10 or 20, 5 or 10 decades earlier, the major source of agricultural credit or credit was private money lenders. Within private money lenders were big landlords having a lot of cash, or you can say a lot of land, and they were quite rich, so they can lend money to the other people. They can afford lending money to other people because they have a lot of spare money with them. Professional money lenders whose profession was to lend money to other people and earn interest. Okay, the benefit here was that it was timely. You can go to them into the night, and if they believe you, they'll give you the money directly. But the thing was, it was inadequate. It might be adequate for a person or two, but on a larger scale of, or a country scale, for a whole country, let's say country scale, or if you see from the point of view of lakhs of farmers, it was inadequate. It was highly expensive, very expensive. The charges can be as high as from 25% to 60% and more easily. Alright, and it was exploitative because this much interest rate, short repayment periods. It was necessarily, whenever nobody goes to a person in the night asking for money until unless they have a very dire, and they are in need of that money, very much in need of that money, and seeing that need, anyone will try to exploit you. Alright, so this is the problem. This was exploitative. Later on, seeing this situation, because it was, the credit available was inadequate, highly expensive and exploitative, a multi-agency approach was can say adopted by the governments. Multi-agency means cooperative banks, commercial banks, regional rural banks, and other types of banks are also there. What are the benefits of dispersing loan through them? Is they are cheaper, there are no malpractices, the interest rate is regulated and is affordable. Okay, timely or not, this is a debatable point, because it was supposed to be timely, but these banks do take time to process loan. Alright, it takes many days. However, these guys, they can give loan to you within 1 hour or 30 minutes. Okay, adequate credit, yes, it is the can say the budget is quite enough. Alright, but seeing the needs of the economy, it might not be enough. Year after year it needs to be increased. You need to focus on different part of agriculture. You need to allocate more money to livestock, to beekeeping, to poultry. Alright, so adequacy is also a debatable point, but more or less it is far better than non-regulated sources or these sources of agricultural credit. Okay, now moving on to the next slide. Why do we need credit? The farmer needs credit because he is poor. It simply can be understood. 20,000 per year. 20,000 rupees is the average annual income of a farming family in India. You might be shocked, but this is the truth. That's why with this 20,000 rupees, he cannot buy inputs and sustain his family for a long period of time. Alright, 20 small land holdings. This is another reason, because due to land fragmentation, because of laws of can say succession, when a father has many sons and the land is allocated or between them, and they further have many sons and daughters, and the land is further fragmented, so the average land holding of the country is very small. 81% of the farmers in this country have less than 1 hectare of land. Okay, This is also a reality. That's why they need credit. Rising cost of inputs, diesel, fertilizers, chemicals, labor of any type, machinery, all these things are getting expensive day by day. These are all inputs. That means increasing cost of production. So how can the farmer arrange for everything that is getting expenses out of just this 20,000 rupees? He cannot. That's why he needs credit. That's why he needs help. And why does he need help? What is the benefit? Why do we need to provide help to him? Because he provides you food. Provides us food. Alright. Food security, by food security I here mean is India has the largest population of people below poverty line. We need to feed our country. Plus, agriculture is the only part of the economy that was growing in this corona phase. So it also helps a large part of this country to sustain on itself. 53% are directly engaged in agriculture. So by providing credit to the people, to the farmers of this country, we are benefiting ourselves. They are helping to provide food security to this nation. They are helping to provide food to this nation, to the people who are below poverty line, as well as they are helping, as well as by providing credit we are helping 53%. This is direct, okay, 53% of the country to sustain on itself. Alright, then why does the farmer needs credit? I have already answered it. For buying inputs, coping with the poor harvest. Whenever there is a poor harvest season, he does not have money to sustain himself, so we need to provide some money so that for the next season he can buy inputs and again try to get a good harvest. For making investments, again for buying land, reclaiming the land that is undulated or has any other kind of a problem, clearing the old debts can say forwarded to him by his forefathers or by his relatives or by himself, for purchasing machinery. By doing all these things, what happens is he tries to increase his income. That's the main motive. He tries to increase his income. So by providing credit, we can help him increase his income. Increasing the farm efficiency, that is hiring labor, machinery, spray, harvesting, weeding. He can hire more and more of these things, and as you know, agriculture today is capital intensive. That means it needs more and more of labor, more and more of machinery of specialized types. So by providing credit, we can hire those things and increase our income. Also, instead of hiring, we can also help him by giving credit to buy these technologies, new technologies such as seed. See, technology can be of any type. You might feel that using word technology for seeds is inappropriate, but it is not. Having a better seed year after year, it is obviously betterment of technology. Better tools, better irrigation systems, better machinery, better implements. Okay, everything is done simply to increase the income of the farmer. Okay, of the farmer, by farmer we mean here is more than 70 crore people of this country. That's why we need agriculture. So this is very important thing. Now moving to classification of agricultural credit. So we have discussed why the farmer needs money and why it is beneficial on part of the whole population. Why should we provide credit to the farmers? Credit is of different types. Okay, we can classify credit according to different bases. First is, for what purpose was the credit given to the farmer? For production, for investment. Production is crops. For investment means buying machineries and implements. For marketing, for for enabling him to sell his crop at a better place, at a better price, or at a better price when the price arrives. Let's say after harvesting the price is very down, but if you are giving him a marketing loan, he can try to store it and sell it later when the price is better. Okay, for consumption purposes, because he needs money for consumption also, as we have discussed already. Annual average income of the average farming family in the country is just rupees 20,000. Okay, then comes according to time. If you want to classify the credit, short term, medium term, long term. According to security, we'll be discussing all the things later, but this is just I'm guiding so that you can understand these things later on as well. You can have a picture of it. In security means either the loan is unsecured or secured. Within secured there are 5 categories. Secured loans are of 5 types. Personal security, collateral security, we'll be understanding the meanings, don't worry. Mortgage is again of 2 types, simple and equitable. Chattel loans, hypothecation is again of 2 types. And then on the basis of liquidity, self liquidating, partial liquidating. On the basis of activity, if you want to classify loans, it can be livestock, piggery, poultry, apiculture, sericulture, anything. Okay, the list can go on long, it is a long list. Okay, then on the basis of approach of lending, how we are lending money. Are we lending money according to individual or according to an area? We are trying to focus on certain product in a certain area, like we're focusing on piggery in Haryana, or poultry in Haryana, or livestock in Haryana. Alright, then differential rate of interest. This is for tribal areas, or can say poor areas of the country. Differential rate of interest means same loan is being provided in Haryana at let's say 7%, and same loan is being provided in any tribal area in Jharkhand at 3% rate of interest. This is called as differential rate of interest. There is a difference for the same thing. Then contact basis, are we providing the loans directly to the farmer, which the farmer is using and getting benefited directly, or indirect loans, which we are providing to people who are providing services to the farmer. We'll be understanding it on in the later slides. So let's discuss first about the first classification, according to purpose. Classification of agriculture according to purpose was first for production, investment, marketing and consumption. For production purposes, this is simply for increasing the crop production. These are also called as short-term agricultural operational loans, or you can call them as short-term loans or crop loans. Why these are called short-term? Because you have to repay them within 6 to 18 months. Alright, with lump sum means total, all the money, that is principal that you had taken plus interest. You don't need to pay the money in installments. After 6 months you take the loan, after 6 months deposit the principal plus the interest, that's done. Okay, this is for buying inputs for producing crops. 6 to 18 months because different crops have different lengths of production. Investment for buying equipments, different types of equipment such as tractors, pump sets, tube wells, any kind of machinery, any kind of an implement. These assets, these are called as assets because you can take them into the market, sell them and get money. That's why this is called an asset. These assets give return over several years. It simply means this tractor will help you increase your income over several years. It is not like seed that you will use the seed this year and it will increase your income this year and it does not have any effect on your income on the next year. But this tractor, same tractor, you can use again and again for several years. Okay. For marketing purposes, as I told you, there are these things called as distress sales. Distress means farmer is has a feeling of unrest whenever he harvests his crop. Let's say in April he harvested wheat on 20th April. Okay, and the price at that time, because everybody has harvested wheat at that time, there is a lot of supply but demand is not that much, so the price is 1700 per quintal. Okay, so this guy, this farmer Ramir, I'll call him Ramir. Okay, this guy wants to sell. He has how much wheat he has? Let's say he has 10 quintals of wheat. We're keeping a small example. How much money he'll get? 17,000 right now. On same day, 20th April, he'll get 17,000 rupees. 17,000 rupees by selling all his wheat, and he has to sell it because he needs to repay debts. Let's say he might have taken some money from a village money lender and the interest rate is very high. He's losing more and more money because of the high interest rate. So whenever he has the wheat crop ready with him, he'll try to sell it as soon as possible so that he can pay this debt as soon as possible. Okay, because more time passes, that means more and more interest he has to pay. One is this reason, and there can be other reasons also. Can say he might need some money for small and marginal farmer. If they have small and marginal, I mean who have land less than 2 hectares. Okay, if they have any kind of requirement at home, they do not have any other source of income apart from agriculture. So whenever they have this wheat crop ready with them, they'll sell it as soon as possible and fulfill those needs. Let's say somebody is their daughter is getting married, the boy is getting married, they need to pay the fees, someone is sick in the family, so they need money very quickly. So whenever the person tries to sell crop at a sub market price, because there is a glut in the market, this is called a distress sale. Okay, so how can we prevent this thing from happening? We can prevent this thing from happening. We'll ask him to store his produce in a warehouse. Okay, and according to the prices, let's say the prices or the value of his produce that is stored is 17,000 rupees. The bank will he'll get a warehouse receipt for it, that this much of value of produce has been stored here. The bank will give him 75% of the money at very low interest rates very easily. Okay, this is a system of warehouse receipt. Store your produce in the warehouse of rupees 17,000, you'll get a receipt, take it to the bank will pay you 75% money, and whenever you can fulfill all your pressing needs instantly, and whenever you have money, come back, repay the money, get the warehouse receipt, repay the money. Or let's say you have an opportunity to sell your crop that is stored in the warehouse, go to the bank, talk to them that I can sell this crop for, right now someone is asking for the crop and I can get 25,000 rupees after selling it, and after selling it I can repay your loan. So this is how the engagement works. Okay, then this was marketing, investment and production loans. Now come consumption loans. These are indirectly productive by averting the diversion of production and investment loan. Whenever somebody takes a loan, that might be production loan or investment loan, okay, they might have some other pressing needs. Somebody might be dying in their family, so there might be some medical problem, or there might be some fees issue, there might be a marriage, so there might be some other problems or some social festivals where the person needs to spend urgently. So this money, this loan money can be diverted it. For preventing this diversion from, instead of buying inputs or buying tractors, he'll spend the money on these things. For the prevention of such a thing, consumption loans are provided. These are indirectly productive. Okay, these are indirectly productive because they stop the diversion of production and investment loans. I hope you got the marketing loan point. I'll tell to you again. Whenever there is a glut in the market, glut during harvesting season, prices go down. Okay, the small and marginal farmers are, due to their needs, are, you can say, are due to their need, they have to sell crop at low prices. This is called as distress sale. To prevent from this distress sale, take the produce to warehouse. They'll give you a receipt, and bank will give you a loan, a loan of 75% of the value of the produce that is stored. Whenever you are able to sell the crop at a higher price, go to the bank, sell the crop, repay the bank. Okay, this is how it works. To prevent the farmer, small and marginal farmer, from selling their crop at low prices due to their problems at just after the harvesting season. Okay, now we'll discuss what is the classification according to repayment period: short term, medium term, long term. These both combined are also called as term loans. It is written here. Short term loans is again crop loans to meet the expenses of on inputs such as sowing, fertilizer, plant protection measures, for payment of wages of casual laborers, hired machinery, etc. etc. So a farmer is supposed to repay the loan from the sale proceeds, means that is income, the money he'll be getting after the sale of the crop that is produced. Okay, sale proceeds generally means income. This is supposed to be repaid between 6 to 18 months, and length of repayment varies according to the duration of the crop. We have talked about it earlier as production loans. Then comes medium loans. Medium loans are to be repaid within 18 months to 5 years. Okay, this longer repayment period is there because loans provided for medium term include machinery loans, implement, electric motors, cattle, sheep, goat. These things increase income slowly, that every year they will add to farmers' income. Let's say first year they increase the farmer income by 10,000 rupees, again second year 20,000 rupees, again third year, and they will keep on adding income up to the 10th year, 15th year. Once you have bought a tractor, it will work for 15 years, and cumulatively, let's say it has increased your income by 15 lakh rupees. Okay, 15 lakh rupees. Alright, so these things are called as partial liquidating nature because they help you repay the loan slowly, not not promptly, as in case of short term agricultural loans. So the loans given for these purposes to be repaid between 18 months to 5 years, and this is a slightly longer repayment period, are called as medium term loans. Long term loans are to be repaid between 5 to 20 years. These are for making permanent improvements on land, such as leveling, reclamation, construction of farm buildings, purchase of tractors also comes here, also raising of orchards. Okay, so this is called as classification of agricultural credit according to repayment period. How much time you will be given to repay the loan, that is repayment period. Short term 6 to 18 months, medium term 15 months, 18 months to 5 years, long term 5 years to 20 years. Why is there a difference? Because short term loans increase your income within those 6 to 18 months. That increase is enough for you to allow to, that increase in income is enough and allows you to repay the whole loan in that season only. Medium term loan, they increase your income but not that much, so that you are able to repay the whole loan within 6 months or 18 months. They will increase your income slowly, and that's why the repayment period is longer. And for long term loans, the repayment period is even longer because they will increase your income very, very, very slowly. Okay, now comes classification of credit according to security. The basic here was, one was secured loans and another was unsecured loans. Unsecured loans, that means A is giving loan to B on the basis of faith. That's all. Based on confidence between the borrower and the lender, there is no mention of any type of security. A will not ask from B any type of land documents or any kind of security. No security at all. So then we will go for secured loans. What are secured loans? B has taken a loan from A. B needs to make A feel secure that I'll pay you the money. For that, B can give security of different types. What are those different types of security that B can give to A? First is personal security. There is a simple promissory note. He can give an affidavit that I'll repay you the money, this much money at which you have given to me at this much of interest rate in this much of time. Alright, that is a promissory note. That's all. This is called as personal security. Collateral security, that means B can give his LIC bonds, fixed deposit, warehouse receipts, his jewelry, his machinery as a security to A. That B took a loan of rupees 10,000 and security was jewelry worth 25,000 rupees. B says to A he will repay the loan within 1 year, 10,000 plus interest. Okay, B has to repay because he has given jewelry to A. A owns that jewelry right now, and he has to repay the money 10,000 plus interest if he wants to get his jewelry back, which is valued much more high. So there is naturally a feeling that B will pay back the money because A owns his jewelry now. These LIC bonds and fixed deposit and warehouse receipts I told you earlier in the last slide, and same in the similar way there can be in place of jewelry there can be a machinery also. Any type of machinery that you keep my tractor, or you keep my harrow, or you keep my rotavator, I'll give you the money back after 1 year and take my rotavator back. These LIC bonds and fixed deposits, if you don't understand these things, let's say a bond is you have deposited money year after year in an LIC policy, and after 10 years whoever has that bond will get that money after 10 years. Let's say you will get 1 lakh rupees. Okay, so if the person B does not have his bond, he will not get the money. So this is kind of a security for A. If fixed deposit receipt or fixed deposit is made, there is a permanent receipt for it. If B gives that to A, it will act as a collateral security against his loan. Next comes chattel loans. Chattel loans, you must have seen a serial called as pawn shop kind of a thing on History Channel, where people come, pledge their jewelry or expensive collectibles, and in place of it they ask for a loan that give their jewelry might be worth $10,000, $20,000, but they'll ask for a $3,000 loan on certain interest rate, and because they need that money and they do not want to sell their jewelry, so they'll take that loan, repay the loan and take their jewelry or collectibles back. So this is called as chattel loans. Now comes mortgage. Mortgage is again of two types: simple mortgage and equitable mortgage. Mortgage, jewelry and these collectibles, they are movable in nature. You can move them from one place to another. But when you are pledging an immovable security, when you are giving immovable security when the borrower is giving immovable security to the lender, this is called as a mortgage for the purpose of getting a loan. What are those immovable properties? Land and farm buildings. Now you must be thinking how a person can give an immovable property to someone else. They can actually create a charge, or they can actually give the land documents or the building documents or some other proof to the lender for getting loan. Okay, the person who is taking a loan and who is pledging his immovable property is called as mortgager, and the person who is giving the loan and taking charge of that immovable property is called as mortgagee. You can simply understand it by that is writing a check a person who is just leave this example. Yes, I don't think it is relatable here. uh, so this point is clear now. Immovable property is pledged for getting a loan. Immovable property, land, farm buildings, it is essentially transfer of interest in a specific immovable property. Okay, or you can call it a creation of charge. Mortgager is who is getting the loan, mortgagee who is giving the loan. There are two types of mortgages: simple mortgage, equitable mortgage. Simple one and equitable one. Simple mortgage is for property inherited, that is you got it from your forefathers. Equitable property mortgage is that is the property you have bought by earning your own money. You have not inherited it from your forefathers. So when the person who is trying to take a loan, he has a property that he is going to pledge. He got that property from his forefathers. Then he needs to register that property in the name of the bank. Okay, and the registration charges will be borne by the borrower. Simply to put it simply in Hindi, नाम करवानी पड़ेगी प्रॉपर्टी बैंक के. ओके, बैंक के नाम करवानी पड़ती है प्रॉपर्टी. बट जब a person is going to get loan from a bank and he is pledging a property that he has bought by himself using his own money, then what he can do is simply give the documents to bank. These documents cannot be made again and again. So the original documents, if the bank has the original documents, the person cannot sell this land after taking the loan or this property after taking the loan. So mortgage, pledging an immovable property such as land, farm buildings or any other type of a house or another building, urban property for the purpose of getting a loan. Okay, simple mortgage when the person has got the property from his parents. Equitable mortgage when the person has got the property by earning himself. In inherited case, he has to register the property in the name of the bank. In case of acquired property or bought property, he has to just submit the documents to the bank. Now going to the next slide. The last one here is hypothecation. This is also a type of security. In mortgage we talked about immovable properties. In hypothecation we talk about movable property. When we are pledging a movable security, a movable property for taking a loan, this is called as hypothecation. What are those movable properties? You can have your car, bike, tractor or any other machinery in your name. Machinery such as combine, etc., reaper, baler in your name, and you pledge that property to the bank. You pledge that property to the bank and get loan against it. So this is called an hypothecation. So the person who is getting the loan here, just like mortgager, he is called as hypothecator, and the person who is giving the loan and the party who is giving the loan is as mortgagee. It is called as hypothecatee in this case when the property is movable. These are again of two types. When the person hypothecation is of two types, key loans and open loans. When the physical possession of the is with the bank but legal ownership is with the borrower. Alright. For the purpose of machinery and warehouse receipt, you can also write here. Let's say a farmer A came to PNB to get loan with his warehouse receipt. The bank will give him 75% of the money. Why? Because he has pledged his warehouse receipt, which is movable. The warehouse receipt, the possession of the bank, the person who has that receipt. Okay, the produce is stored in a warehouse. So whoever has that receipt is the owner of that produce. Simply, he has that possession. He has the possession. Okay, but the bank cannot sell that produce very easily. it has to wait for a certain period of time. So certain period of time, so that the farmer comes back, pays his money, and can say take his warehouse receipt back. The physical possession of the warehouse of the produce will lie with the bank because it has the warehouse receipt, but the legal ownership will lie with the borrower. Even if the bank has the warehouse receipt, they cannot sell it before a specific period of time. Alright. Another type of hypothecation is open loans, when the physical possession is with the borrower but legal ownership is with the bank. Earlier, what used to be, there were tractors with big PNB written on them. Whenever you took a tractor loan from a bank and used it for your own purpose, they used to write on the tractor property of PNB, this PNB, that PNB, Punjab National Bank property. The possession, the farmer used to make use of this tractor, that means physical possession was with the farmer, but the ownership of that tractor used to be with the bank. Until the farmer clears the loan, he cannot further sell this tractor. Okay, I hope you have got all of them. Let's revise them once again. Personal security, when person B says, the borrower says, I'll give you money back, you have to believe me. Collateral security, you can give an affidavit here, simple affidavit. Collateral security, when the person B is giving a movable property of higher value for taking a loan from a person. That movable property of higher value is LIC bonds, FD, warehouse receipts, jewelry, machinery. He is giving this property to the lender and taking some money. Okay. Then chattel loans, these are given by pawnbrokers. Whenever you are going to the pawnbroker, giving them your jewelry and expensive collectibles for taking some loan. Alright. Then comes mortgage, when you are pledging a immovable property for getting a loan. Immovable property is land of different types, farm buildings, or I can say urban residential buildings, for taking a loan, such as a house loan. Okay. Then the person who is getting the loan is called as mortgager. The person who is giving the loan is called as mortgagee. These are two types: simple, equitable. Simple, when you have inherited that property; equitable, when you have acquired that property. In case of simple, you need to register that property in the name of the bank and bear the charges. In case of equitable, you just need to give the documents to the bank. You don't need to bear the registration charges, which are quite high. Then comes hypothecation. Let me delete all this. Hypothecation, when you are pledging an movable property for taking a loan. The person who is borrowing is called as hypothecator. The person who is giving the money is called as hypothecatee, that is the bank here. Tractor or machinery loans. First type is key loans and second type is open loan. Open loan, simply remember the tractor example, written PNB on it. The farmer is using it, but the legal ownership is with the bank. And key loans, remember warehouse receipt. The farmer will go to the bank, give the warehouse receipt, get 75% loan, but the bank cannot sell that produce. It has the physical possession of it because it has the warehouse receipt, but they cannot sell it, and the legal ownership of that stuff that is stored in the warehouse remains with the farmer. Alright. Then there are these unsecured loans based on the confidence between borrower and lender. There is no talk of any type of security. The person A gives loan to person B just on the basis of faith. Not even an affidavit is given. Then comes liquidity, self-liquidating and partial liquidating. We have already discussed them. Self-liquidating are crop loans which increase your income by a sufficient amount that you can repay your loan within the repayment period. Within 6 to 18 months it will increase your income enough so that you can repay the entire loan amount by the increase in income. Then comes partial liquidating. These are term loans. Medium term and long term loans are called as partial liquidating. They do increase your income, but slowly. Year after year, they'll add to your income and they'll help you repay the loan slowly. They'll help you repay part of the loan component annually. You'll not be able to repay the whole loan within one year or 2 years. Then comes activity based loans given for sericulture, dairy, orchard, loans for land development. These can be cited under this category. Then comes on approach basis. When the loans are given by the lending agency to any potential borrower, this is called as individual approach. Area approach, loan advanced by selecting the contiguous means nearby area by a bank branch. Let's say PNB Hisar city will give loans to further 5 near villages, okay, because it lies in their service area. It will give loan to only to these 5 villages, so this is called as area approach. Then comes DIR loans, when the loans are given to the weaker sections of the community such as tribal areas at 4% rate of interest. These similar loans are given at 7% in Haryana but 4% in Jharkhand to the tribals there. These are called as differential rate of interest loans because they are extremely poor people and they need much more help than the farmers of Haryana state. Next comes the loan based on contact. Direct, when the loans are given directly to the farmer for different purposes, but when the loans are given indirectly to the organizations that help the farmers, these are called as indirect loans. Let's say when the bank is giving loan to a fertilizer manufacturing company, it will help increase fertilizer supply. Okay, when it is financing the construction of warehouses, market yards, it will increase the storage capacity. It will help the farmers get better prices, more and more market yards, less transportation charges for farmers. Okay, if it is giving loans to sugar factories, that means there are more buyers of sugarcane that the farmer is growing. Agro service center are opening up, reduced input cost, or you can say reduced. Earlier the farmer used to go 20 kilometers for buying inputs, but now the distance has been reduced to just 5 kilometers because agro service center has opened up in the next village or in the same village. Then giving loans to custom hiring centers, that will increase the availability of machineries for hiring purposes at cheaper prices. Then giving loans to traders and manufacturers for distribution of agricultural inputs, again reduced cost for farmer. State electricity boards for increasing electricity network of wells, that means more and more electrified tube wells. More electrified tube wells means lesser money to be spent on diesel because electric tube wells are far cheaper than diesel tube wells. Money given to farmer service societies, PACs, primary agricultural cooperative credit societies, cooperative marketing societies, which help the farmers in marketing their produce, in storing their produce by providing them inputs. And these are large size Adivasi multipurpose cooperative societies. Again the same functions: inputs, credit, consumables, household items, help them in marketing. So all these loans, whenever all such type of loans are given to organizations, they indirectly affect the farmers. Not directly, they indirectly affect the farmers. Either they will reduce the cost, or they reduce the transportation cost, or they'll increase the availability. So these are indirectly beneficial for the farmer. This is also, you can classify the credit. Now these are further suggested readings. I will be posting them alongside the YouTube video in the description. You can just click them and get these files and study these files to get a better understanding. If you didn't understand anything, you can always talk to me in the WhatsApp group of the class in class timings only, please. because I have other commitments too. Or if you want any special sessions for clearing doubts for all the things that we have studied till now, you can contact me anytime on the WhatsApp group. Just make a consensus among all of you among you all in your class, and just we can talk and we can organize that also. No problem at all. Thank you. This was all about your second unit of the course AGCON 201. I hope you enjoy. You, I cannot say enjoyed because it is uh, one way teaching only. I am not able to see your expressions and your mood. Thank you all. Let's hope for the best. Let's hope you get the best out of it. Thank you.